Hi, and welcome to the PassioKnit Spinner podcast. This is episode 5. My name is Tracy. You can also find me as Schnüffeltier on Ravelry and Instagram. And it's written like this. And I opened a Ravelry group for the podcast. Would be great for you to join. And you can find it as the PassioKnit Spinner podcast on Ravelry. So, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your time with me. I'm, like always, just gonna start right away. What I'm wearing today is my Perry Street Rugby sweater. It's a pattern by Kirsten Kapoor, and I knit this out of Rowan Fine Tweed, held double. I really like the sweater. It's not meant to be fitted. It's meant to be, oversized, and I did accomplish that, but I think it's a bit too oversized around here. I don't like that it is so super baggy here, especially because I always do this to have my arms free, and there's just a lot of fabric in here. But the sweater is super warm and was super easy to knit. As you can see, it's garter stitch with a cable panel on one side and just easy ribbing for the sleeves. So it was a super nice, super easy and quick knit, and I totally enjoyed it. I would knit it again, but I would change some things for this area. But like I said, I do like it a lot. So, knitting in the past. This week I really knit a lot. It's so great to be home, to not have to go to work. I knit a lot of stuff. First off, I want to show the Kala Infinity Scarf by Pam Powers that I had finished last week, but it was still blocking. And as you can see, you still can't see a lot of it. I'm gonna try to show you how it is knit. You basically knit columns and braid them up. But when I wear it, I think it's fine. It looks nice. And the yarn is really soft. It's nice to wear because of the cotton content. And I said last week that I'm not quite sure if I like the finished object, but now that it's done and I can wear it, I do like it. So that's completely done, completely unshowable. I don't know how to show it. It's just, but it's pretty, and I liked it. With the leftovers of the yarn, I did knit a hat, just to use up every last bit, because I ran out of one of the colors and had still enough from the other 3 to do this hat. I like it. I'm gonna try it on. Totally ruining my non-existing hair do thing, but it's nice and long. It covers my ears, and I made a tassel with all the remainders of the yarn, so it's completely used up, every last bit of it. No pattern, just cast on some stitches and a little bit of a garter rib detail. I like it. It's very soft. It's nice to wear. Not sure how warm it will be because of the almost 50% cotton, but I like it. It's nice. And the next thing I finished were my the Little Bobbins Knits Christmas Eve socks. I have them here in my blockers. They are knit out of Lollipop yarns in the Fa La 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 colorway. I did an afterthought heel. I really like how those turned out. They're matched up perfectly, which I normally don't do, but with self-striping yarn, I try to do it as good as possible. And this pair is super special, not only because it's very pretty, but I'm a list person, which means I have lists for almost everything. And I do have a list for the socks that I knit. And this pair here is the 275th pair of socks that I have ever knit. That's quite a lot of socks, right? 275 pairs. So, super special, super pretty. And then, I don't know why, but I just wanted to knit garter stitch scarves. Why? I have no idea, because no one on earth likes to knit a garter stitch scarf. It's the most boring thing I can imagine, but I wanted to do that, so I did. And I picked out some yarn that I got at a local yarn shop. It's called Fiamma by Grundelwolle. It's a German yarn maker. It's 90% wool and 10% non-wool. I had 3 skeins, and 3 skeins gave me a scarf that is this long. It's not long enough to be worn as a real scarf because you just have not enough fabric to wrap around. But I think when you close it up like this under your jacket, or you put in a shawl pin, it's warm, it's cozy, and you don't have all the excess fabric covering down your belly button. So I do like it a lot. It goes in a gift pile for next year, or for this year, because the first birthdays are already around the corner, and I'm going to give this away as a birthday gift. I do like how the yarn worked out. It's a thick and thin yarn. I knitted this scarf on a 10mm needle. I have no idea what that is in English. Maybe a US 15. I don't know. It's 10mm. It was super, super fat needles. So here it is. And then, because I still wanted to knit garter stitch scarf, I made another one, this time for myself, out of my hand spun. It's folded in 4/4 like right now, so this is a really long scarf that I can wear as a real scarf, you know? Just pull around once and have it dangling, or fold it nice to go under the jacket. Like I said, I used my own hand spun for this, and I did do a thick and thin single that I plied with commercial lace weight yarn, and I am in love with this scarf. I think it turned out super pretty. Gonna try to show you once more what it looks like. I really love this fabric. I think it's awesome. It's super soft. The yarn that I used was a merino tencel blend, and the lace weight yarn is a silk and cashmere blend, so it's heavenly soft. It's gorgeous. So that's all I have finished in 1 week. So on to knitting in the present. I'm only working on one project actively, and that's a pair of socks, of course. Oh, I just lost the ball band. I showed you this sock before. It's knit out of handspun that I got from Etsy, from Bockstark Knits. It's a German. She's a German handspinner, and here is my little yarn tag. Na komm. It's she spun this yarn out of Crown Mountain Farms roving. It's 100% merino superwash in the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds colorway. And this is the first sock that I have finished. I originally started this for the Outliner project, but as my reading mojo is like non-existent right now, I just decided to take those out of the project and finish them up, because why not? Here's the second sock. I would say a third to the leg, and I'm using my Frogget Designs. Lighting and me, we do not cooperate, as you may have found out already. It's my Frogger Designs DPN holder, and that's the rest of the yarn. So I will not run out. I will have a good bunch left and might be able to knit some fingerless gloves for myself. The other thing that I'm going to start right when I finish this is the Manuel pet sweater that I've talked about 1,000 times now, and I'm going to use this yarn. It's leftover Wollmeisen that I have. The colorway is Amazonas. And yeah, I decided to use this because I don't know how sensitive the dog is, and you know, when I sit down to knit a sweater for a pet, I want the pet to be able to wear it without scratching his skin off. So this is going to be it. Knitting in the future, I'm still planning on knitting the Chimera mitts by Julia Müller and the Langfield hat by Martina Behm to go with my Scarfy Shenanigans scarf. But I have not started either, and I'm not going to show it because I've talked about those last week. So on to spinning. I did spin quite a lot this week. I finished my Into the World yarn that I spun out of my last shipment for the club. It was the December club of this year. It's a Corriedale. It's called Flounce. And I got 175 yards, which is exactly 160 meters, and it weighs 108 grams. I like it. I think it's gorgeous. I think I know what to do with it. I have started a pair of mittens about 4 years ago that I'm designing myself, and I want to go back to those, finish them up, and knit a second pair just to make sure that everything I wrote down is correct. And I might do it with this yarn because it's not super soft Corriedale. It's a scratchier Corriedale. Corriedale is very different. It can be super soft, it can be super scratchy. This is more of a scratchy one, and I don't want to put it next to my skin because it's not nice. I can't wear it. It's itchy. But the mittens that I'm working on are lined mittens, so this is going to be on the outside, and for the inside I'm going to choose something super nice and super non-itchy. So, one skein finished. Then I decided to finally go back to my Maya Croft Rose spinning wheel because I got it last year and I finished one single yarn on it, and that's it. So I had to get back to it because I love this spinning wheel. It's so pretty and it spins amazingly, and I decided to finish up what I started, and I had one bobbin spun up. It's a superwash Corriedale. It's just a brown Corriedale with some pinks and blues in it, and I spun up the second bobbin. So this will be plied. It's 200 grams altogether, and it's very thin. Let's see if I can show you how thin it is. Yeah, I think you can see it against my wall on my skin. It's very thin. I think it might be about a fingering to a sport weight when I ply it up, which is what I normally don't like spinning because it's, you know, so thin and it takes forever. But I think as this color or the fiber itself isn't super duper colorful, I might knit a lace shawl out of it, because 200 grams I hope for about 500 to 600 yards, so I can knit a nice lace shawl. And then we had spinning club yesterday at my house, which we do every 2 months, and I started spinning the Three Waters Farm fiber that I showed a few weeks ago. There's some nice reds in here as well. You cannot see all the colors, it's just super pretty. It was called, or it still is called, Cheerful Disposition, and I spun up one braid yesterday. It looks like this. It's even thinner than the superwash Corriedale that I just showed. And I finally used my AcoWorks bobbin, and I'm gonna show you the layers on both sides, of course. And you still cannot see all the colors that are in this. So I'm gonna do a fractal spin, which means I'm gonna divide this braid totally different from this and spin those together and hope for another good 500 to 600, maybe more yards to do a not so lacy shawl, because those colors and lace, it's just not what I would do, because super colorful yarn and super intricate patterns just don't go well together. That's all for spinning for this week. I hope to ply up the superwash Corriedale, and I'm almost sure I will not be able to spin the second bump of 3 rods farm fiber, but that's okay because I didn't need to have it done by a certain time. So on to new stuff. I got some books and a skein of yarn. Like I said, we had spinning club yesterday at my house, and it was from my local knitting group, and we did have a stash down knit along the last 4 months, and I won a prize for it, and I decided to go with this skein of yarn. It's a super bulky, it's from Lana Grossa, it's called Olympia Gold, and I'm going to knit a hat out of this. I already know which hat. I have the pattern ready, just have to get started. And as it's going to be knit on 8 and 9mm needles, it's going to be super quick, and I hope to have this done by next week. And then I got myself some books, because I'm gonna talk about my goals later for this year. And one of my goals is to knit down my stash, of course, as every year. And to do that, I just got some books. I got the Zanzi book that everyone is talking about right now. I got Sock Architecture, and I really like it. I might try some different heel and toe pattern, because after, like I said before, almost 300 pairs, I found my way to knit a sock, and I could do something else sometime. And then your white book, I got the What Would Madame Defarge Knit book, and the What Else Would Madame Defarge Knit book. There are nice patterns in here. I like that the inspirations for all of those patterns came from classic literature, because I love books. The only thing I don't like is the first book, the one you cannot see anything on, because it's just white and it's super light again in here, even though we decided to close the blinds. There are a ton of patterns, but there is not one picture of any pattern in this. And I think I'm not the only person who thought that's not the best idea ever, because the second book has a pattern picture for every pattern. Like you can see here, there's just one pattern picture to show you what you're going to work on. And this book here does not have any pictures. So I went to Ravelry and looked at all the pictures and found out what I really wanted to knit. But when I get a book, I don't want to go to the internet to check out what it's gonna look like. So, but I still like the books. They're a nice idea. That's all that I got. I do not have an Indie of the Week this week, because I've not worked with any German or European-based indie of any kind this past week. So, and I don't want to, highlight American ones, because all of those. What the only thing that's left on my list today, and I have to flip around here, is my goals for 2015. I always make goals, I never reach them, but I try every year again. So my biggest goal for this year, as for every year, is to work through my stash. No, not through my stash. I'm never going to be able to work through the stash in 1 year, but I really wanna do a stash down. I don't give myself a total yarn buying diet thing, because I know that this will not work out at all. Because last time I tried to do this, I ended up buying the double amount of what I normally would get. So yarn diet, no way. But I'm going to try to do a stash down, because I told you last week that I have to rearrange this room to get all this sewing stuff in here as well. And it is already packed to the brim with all the knitting and spinning things. So I have to stash down to be able to fit my stuff in here. The other thing that I really want to do is knit more from books and magazines that I already own. Ravelry is an amazing thing, but it's so enabling to patterns, to single patterns, that I totally forget about what I already have. And I have a quite large knitting library with a lot of books and magazines, and I just want to use those. Not exclusively, of course, but I want to try to knit more from what I have. The other thing I do each year, I want to get rid of some UFOs. I have a ton of started projects that I'm not working on, and I want to try do a finish or frog with those, to just decide what I really want to have and what I'm never going to work on, or that I may not wear when it's done. So I don't see the point in knitting stuff I don't use. The next thing is a big thing. I want to spin up a sweater quantity for a sweater for my husband. I got fiber for it maybe 2 years ago, and as my mother-in-law, she's a knitter as well, and we decided to do a collaboration, which means that I'm going to spin the yarn and she's going to knit a sweater. And I want to do that this year. I want to spin the yarn for the sweater. And I'm going to knit him a sweater myself. Not out of the handspin, of course, because that will go to my mother-in-law. But I have 2 sweater quantities for him here in my stash, and I want to work up at least one of those sweaters, maybe both. Then a huge thing for me, I want to use up more of my handspun. I already started, because the first project of the year was the scarf that I showed, this one here, out of my handspun, and I'm working on a pair of handspun socks. Of course, it's not my handspun for the socks, but it's handspun that's in my stash, and I should use that up. Next up is I want to knit the Allen Dart Christmas tree with the little hangers. I don't have the pattern here, do I? Oh, I do. Haha. I want to knit this one. It was a bonus pattern booklet in Simply Knitting 2008, so quite a while ago, and I just love this little tree. And I'm going to knit this up for myself to have it in here in my crafting room by next December. I know that's totally nuts, but I'm gonna try. The next thing, I want to sew more. I want to get back to sewing, because when I have all my crafting stuff in here, it might be easier for me to sit down and sew, and I really want to do that, and I'm itching to start a sewing project, but right now I just have to finish rearranging everything and get everything set up in here before I do anything else. I just cannot start cutting out fabric. It's just not going to happen. And the last thing on my list, I want to get back into reading. I used to read all the time, and I did read it quite a lot last year, but I'm still not quite happy with it. I want to get back to it more, and I hope to be able to do that. But as in May, my life will change like 1,000%. I don't know what time will bring, and how much time I will have to craft or read or do anything of my hobbies, because it's my first baby and I just don't know what's going to happen, so we'll see. So those are my goals for this year. Maybe you want to share some of your goals in the Ravelry group. That would be amazing, and we could cheer each other on during the year. I'm going to open a thread. Oh, and I touched the table. So please come on over, join the group, and thank you so much for being here. Have a nice weekend, or nice Sunday. It's Sunday here. Have a nice week, and we'll talk next week. Bye.